Welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the CSS Box Model. So what is a CSS Box Model? So from this perspective of CSS, every element is considered as a box. That's it. Every little thing is a box, and I don't mean by a square box or any type of box in general. It is everything inside a box. So the good thing about this box is that you can move it around. You can move it a little bit to the left, to the right, up and down. Also, every box is composed of 4 parts, which is the content area, the padding, the border, and the margin. So here is like a little image of how this box look like. And again, we have the content, which is the first one here, the padding, the border, and the margin. We're gonna take a look to each one in a moment. And of course, let's start with the content. The content area, it holds the text or image or any content that you need to add to your website. And also, it doesn't have any white space between the content and any other element that I just mentioned above, like here. It doesn't have any white space between this content and the padding, or of course, between the content and the border, and of course, not the content and the margin. So let me just go back. The padding. Any box can have a layer of padding around the content area. One thing that you have to know is that this padding here, it is optional. However, you probably might want to use it just to give it a little bit, not a style to your website, but to make it look more organized and not make it look everything is together. For example, right now, do you see this space here between any box, and it is optional? So imagine if this space here will be all together, just like, let me see if I can do it really quick. Can I do this? Can I put, not really, you don't do this over here, you don't do that, oh, line space. Let's see. And let me just do this as well. Let me put just everything to 0. And of course, single. Nope, didn't work. However, it didn't move that space here. But one thing that you can see is, do you see the space between those bullet points and it? So imagine that without that space there. Okay, so look at how that thing look like, right? So another thing is that it is used to create that white space there. So that's what I just say right now between this space here. Imagine that I just move this to the right side away from this green point here. And also, as you guys can see, it's transparent. That you don't see nothing on it. It's just white transparent space. Let's see. The border. The border is just around the element, and also it's optional. You don't need to specify that when you write in your CSS code. And it surrounds the padding, yes, but you're probably not gonna see this, but stay with me. And because it takes the form of a line around, but again, you probably not see this because you need to specify the line, the size of the line. Okay, so let's go. And of course, we're going to talk about this property in a minute. So let me just keep this for now, just giving you an overview of this. And of course, finally, we have the margin, which is also optional. And in this case, it surrounds by the border. So I mentioned that the padding is not the padding, the border is surrounds of the padding. And I say that the margin, it is, what is this? I know it's the border, but what did I just say that? There you go, right here. Yeah, it's around the border. Okay, so we get part 2 in a minute. Let's see this thing in action. As you can see right now, I just set everything to have padding and margin set to 0. Okay, so right now my page, whatever I add is gonna be just on the left side, just like that. In this case, we are going to add some padding to this label 1 here and see what's happened. But first, let me show you how do we know everything in CSS is a box. Look at this. As you can see here, you can see that when I let me see if you guys can see this. Well, not really. Let's see. I don't know if you can see that everything is highlighted from here to here when I click here. And when I click here, of course, you're gonna see everything highlighted. So it means that this is a box here from here to here. And this is another box from here to here, okay? And of course, if you want to see this in action, you can see this box right here on my right side, which is everything that we just talked about. Here, we have the content. Here, we have the padding. This little thing here is the border. And of course, we got the margin here in this side. So let me just go back and start applying this thing. So I'm gonna add some padding and just a little bit padding to the label 1. Yes, this is the red label 1. Click that. As you can see, look how the content just move a little bit from left side here, top, bottom, and right. Okay, that was the padding. So let me just add a little bit of margin. I'm gonna do the same thing. Take pixel and I click save. Just going to refresh. The idea is that the whole red, which is the element, just move a little bit from this square CSS and from the green label, which is label 2. And there you go. So the margin, it works like that because the intention of the margin is to provide this outside division between two elements. It's like it wants to provide that space between those two elements. The padding, the space that it's providing, it is still inside the element, which is trying to stay away from its own element. In this case, if we move this, if we add padding here, we just kind of move around within this red, the whole thing which is red, which is the whole box. So everything is moving within the same box. That would be the much better to say. Everything, when you're using padding, everything is moving within the same box. When you're using margin, you try to provide this white or transparent space between two elements. Okay, let's just go back. Let's add some padding and margin to our label 2. Here, I'm just going to provide a little bit more, which is probably 20. Yep, 20 pixels. And do you see the difference? Like how it's going from here to here. Okay, that is one. So let me just provide the margin. And I'm gonna do also 20. But take a look at it. got the difference between this one. I'm gonna put 10. Okay, just gonna do 10. So everything is lined up. So this part right here should be here. Okay, like here. Let me just put a little bit more. And I'm just going to remove this thing here. And as you can see, I'm gonna try to move this here up to here. Okay, and then everything here will be white space. So let me just click refresh. There you go. But do you notice something? The space here didn't change much, as you can see. Because when I say 10, I'm already have 10 from one part. So 10 and 10 is the same here. If you want to see the difference, you probably want to add a little bit more, which is, let's say 20. Okay, and there you go. So the question is, as you can see, I can manipulate this. I can be like, okay, let me just move it a little bit to the right, to the top, to the bottom, to the left, and so on. So let's see that in action. As I mentioned here, this is the border property that I mentioned here. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Here, which is we have some other properties that we can apply to padding and the margin, and as well as the border right here. But let's start with the padding. I'm just going to delete this padding here, and I'm going to delete this one as well. And I'm gonna let me just put everything back the way it was. Okay, there you go. So what about if I want to make sure to add some space between the red and green by just moving the green away from the red? Okay, so let's see that. For that, I'm gonna use a property which is called padding bottom. As you can see all of them here, which is top, bottom, right, and left. Let me try this one, and I'm just going to add about 10. And then just, oh, again, sorry about that, right. Remember, the padding is within the box, and the margin is outside the box. I broke my own rule. So let's just go back to this and just put the margin here. There you go. So I just provide that space between those two elements, which is element 1 and element 2. And again, the margin is the one from outside. And I just demonstrated here when I say that I'm gonna move this up to here, adding this white space here. Okay, so let's also move this label 1 a little bit to the left. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use margin left 20 pixels. There you go. And now I'm gonna try a little bit to the right. Just margin right. I say 20, but I'm gonna do 40 so you guys can see it. There you go. See that? And of course, I want this to be a little bit away from this. One thing here, which is probably you probably have done before, is that yes, if you are here, you can just do this, maybe, you know, do this, and probably this, adding by 3 breaks. Yeah, you can do that. Maybe you can just probably add even once and it will work. See that? But do you see how much space this BR provides? And maybe, I'm assuming that you probably don't want that much space, just because. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this. And I'm just gonna go ahead and provide some margin, top. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and say just a little bit, which is about 5 maybe. Let's see. There you go. See, you probably want this. Okay, so that's the difference between those. Which is important here is the content that you probably want to move it around, which is move it away from the on, not well, move it a little bit away from the box. Remember, everything is inside a box. The padding is useful to move things within the box. The margin is useful to move things between two elements, to move things away from each other. Okay, let's go back and add in some padding. So I'm gonna do padding left, and probably going to give about 10. There you go. And I like it, the top, I like the bottom here. And of course, we don't care about that because we still have all bunch of stuff. But maybe if we have something like this, I'm just gonna go ahead and copy and paste label 1 like 100 times and see up to where we get it. I'm just gonna click save, going to refresh. Do you see this here? You probably don't want that. The reason this one probably did not fix there just because it was larger than this. But I mean, not this here, but I mean this one here. This one over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and just put a little bit padding in this side, which is the right side. Okay, let's do that. Padding. And just add that. There you go. And of course, maybe a little bit now, because we almost have like a paragraph here, probably want a little bit away from top and bottom. Top, probably 5 pixels. And bottom 5. So one thing, see that one thing that you probably want is keep the same within the top and the bottom here, and the same with the right and left, just to make it look nice, because you probably don't want something that has more than the other. For example, if here I have 25 on top, I did not save that, so let me save, and I just go ahead and put that. Look how it look like. So again, of course, it's not a rule. It's not like it's not like, oh my God, it's mandatory that you have to add this, equal the same thing that the same thing that you put here is the other one here, and you want this, blah blah blah. It's not that, but you want something to look like really cool. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put 5. And we are going to talk about the border right now, which is this one right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna put about 5, right? And then I'm just gonna go ahead and say, hey, I want like a solid line. And here I'm going to give it a color green. Okay, so we provide the size, what type of line you want around, and the color. Let's see. And do you see this? It's green, it's all the way around. Probably you want something like this, or maybe you want at least, I always use 2 or 1 just to make it look nice. See that? Maybe 1 is better. Or maybe 2 is good. It's just that, look, I have like to 200% as you can see here. So yeah, 2 is fine. And yeah, let's just go do an inspect element. And let's take a look at it. So I have my content. Let me just select my thing here. I have my content first, then I have my padding. I have my border that I give 2. Do you remember that too? And of course I have my margin that I also give 5 on top, and I did 10 on the other one. All right, let's see what else can we say about this. It's pretty straightforward though. Just that you have to know that when you have a paragraph and you probably want to be a little bit more organized with it, and you probably want to move it like a little bit to the right, to the left. And of course, not everybody has a background color when they write a paragraph, but it's always good to know it just in case. About the other ones, when you have 2 things and probably you want just to move things around, instead of using just this break here, let me add it. Instead of using this, it's better to use margin, just because it will give you a much better vision of how much space are you adding. And of course, which is our second part, it will be much better to control this space when you log in to your site using a cell phone. Like when people see your website in a cell phone or iPad or something like that, it will be much easy to control this part here. How much space do you want to add? For example, right now, if I go ahead and I check how this thing look like on a cell phone, right? I go here, and yeah, of course, I mean, right now it's not that bad, but this is an iPhone 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, I use this one, iPhone 5. So right now, according to my browser, this is iPhone 5. Okay, so right now this is an iPhone 5. I have an iPhone 5 here. Yep. And if you say it's not an iPhone 5, then definitely you should have to check again because it is an iPhone 5. Anyway, so do you see the space here? And probably you want this to look a little bit much, a little bit here for whatever reason, we can make that happen when you're using a cell phone. However, if you have all these things, it will be a little bit harder for you to control it. Okay, right now I can do this. Let me just delete this element. There you go. Can do this and this. Okay, but what about if I just want a little bit more when it's on cell phone, and I want to look like this when it's on desktop or a tablet? We're gonna take a look at that at the second part of this lesson. But and again, let me just go really quick. When we're talking about padding, we're talking about, well, first we're talking about the content, which is anything that you have to put it inside. It could be text, it could be image, whatever you want. That means the content. Then we have what we call the padding, which is around the content. Then we have this line here, which is the border line. There you go. And then we have the margin, which is around. And again, you don't see this unless you specify the border, like you give it a color. But the padding and margin is transparent, like it's white space. Like you will not see this. However, you will definitely see the space that it provides between the elements, or the space that it provides within the box. Okay? Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next lesson.